Fnatic and the Unicorns of Love. It's up! Unicorns get the Baron steal! All of a sudden, Unicorns with 2 quick kills and 1 outer turret remaining. They're gonna push Fnatic even further back. Vizicsacsi's gonna go low. Teleported down to 1200. Picked up by Fnatic. Vizicsacsi's gonna go low. Teleported disrupted. I cannot understand this game. Done it. Unicorns have beaten Fnatic. 33 minutes. Fnatic taking out the Unicorns.
Welcome to the fight we've all been waiting for. Fnatic and Unicorns of Love. They have been regarded as 2 of the strongest teams in Europe this split. Now they face off in one of the most anticipated matchups in 2017. Now joining us on the studio desk here is Vitality's coach YamatoCannon. I'm sorry it could not be under better circumstances, but good to have you here either way.
Thank you very much. It was a tough game. I don't think there's any shame in losing against G2, so I'm still... I took it on the chin, so to speak. Yeah.
All right, well, we'll focus on the matchup at hand. We'll talk more about Vitality later in the day. Now, Fnatic versus Unicorns of Love, the first thing I kind of want to talk about is the Fnatic style. I don't want to call it dead, but we did see a lot of new picks, a lot of things coming out for them. Now, Yamato, you got the pleasure of playing against them. What was your impression of Fnatic now opting for more meta champions, I think it's safe to say?
I feel like when it comes to Fnatic, their playstyle is still intact. They have these new picks coming in, like not new, they're just adapting to the meta, so to speak, with the Varus and picking standard champions. But I think this fast-paced playstyle they have is still something that is ongoing for them. They are very quick on changing the pace, and they're willing to take fights that surprise most people, unless they're called unicorns, I guess.
Interesting that you bring that up. Unicorns themselves have been playing incredibly aggressively. Henning, what has been your impression of Unicorns of Love over the last few weeks?
I mean, I still think they got the same strengths. We know that they are this decisive, aggressive team, like in the mid to late game. But getting there has been looking rough, more and more rough for them. Like, I mean, the individual mistakes have been more common. I think when falling behind early on, it's also really hard to play the style where you want to engage a lot in the mid game, because if your laners are, especially in the mid lane, when you've been falling behind in the early game, it's really hard to go off that with the Unicorn style. So that's a big problem for them, the individual misplay, so to say.
Yeah, Ramon with yet another classic Unicorns of Love special outfit for the series, I'm sure. But one of the things is Fnatic are playing with some pretty high stakes today. If they win today, they lock in that playoff spot. And to me, looking at it, is Fnatic still, even after some of the weaknesses they showed at Rift Rivals, are they still regarded as one of those top European teams, even after maybe some upsets there? And Yamato, to you?
I think they have to be. Like, we sent our best teams, and they got beaten by NA, but within our region, they're still obviously the best. I think they still showed the same class that they did before Rift Rival, like this fast pace, and they showed that against us, and they completely massacred us, and I think they will continue the same way within EU at least.
So if you're Unicorns of Love, we know that they have been struggling. What are you relying on at this point? Like, what is your strategy coming into a series against Fnatic?
I think when it comes to UOL, I think their main strength is their creativity. Usually when they play against specific teams, or any team in general, everyone plays by the book, right? And UOL is very, very good at cutting through that. They sit in the bush sometimes, you get caught, and all of a sudden UOL just flips the game on its head. Also when it comes to 7.14, which is a massive patch, teams are adapting slowly. Unicorns of Love is always a team that adapts very, very fast. I still have this anecdotal evidence when I got completely destroyed by Tahm Kench top lane in 1 week, and I was like, where did this champ come from? I think Unicorns of Love can bust out some things today too.
All right, well, I'm going to ask for predictions, gentlemen, before we throw over. Henning, we'll start with you. Who's going to take it? What is the score going to be?
I'd really like to see some cheese coming out from the Unicorns of Love. However, I don't think that's going to be enough. Fnatic, I'm going to go 2-0.
All right, Yamato, into you as well.
I'm pretty certain that it will end in a 2-1. I think blue side is very, very strong right now, and choosing is a very, very big aspect of winning. And I have to give it to the team that wins the coin toss. I'm not sure who won the coin toss.
Well, luckily we have some people with that information. We're ready for a thrilling fight between Fnatic and Unicorns of Love. Quickshot, who has blue side?
Well, the Unicorns have blue side because they won the coin toss and picked it. Thank you very much, Drakos, and welcome everybody. I'm Trevor Quickshot Henry, joined by Andrew Veduis and Martin Deficio Linger. Gentlemen, it is a pretty hype matchup today, Fnatic and UOL, but it feels like it's Fnatic favorite.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, and then you just mentioned Unicorns on blue side twice. They're winning almost all the games right now, and I think Unicorns will love, despite having some issues, they will come in more prepared for this one and be ready to actually take it on.
We're in a meta right now that suits the Unicorns of Love. Team fighting, grouping up mid. The question is, have Fnatic leveled up enough to be able to challenge the UOL style?
Well, let's find out. We've got two star-filled lineups facing off on this series, starting, of course, with the Unicorns of Love. You can hear the Love Hurts crew in the audience, and we'll find out whether or not Xerxe, Vizicsacsi, and Samux can help make up for the struggles that Exileh is facing. Over on the other side of the Rift, Fnatic, they will be starting on the red side, and the Fnatic faithful are in the audience. Let's see whether or not Rekkles can lead his boys to another victory, because this summer really has been about Fnatic in the EU LCS.
They're very true. I think Rift Rivals was a big hit, of course, for Fnatic and their fans, and a lot of European fans as well. Both teams were represented right there. Unicorns, of course, did make the final after all. Fnatic did not. And now I guess they want some revenge, despite the fact that it wasn't really Unicorns' fault that Fnatic didn't go so far at Rift Rivals.
Fnatic, they want to prove that they are the best team in Europe, undoubtedly. They've so far been able to defeat G2, defeat H2K, and the only one left on their hit list is to take out the Unicorns, and now they will get their opportunity.
All right, what are we going to see in picks and bans, gentlemen? 2014 Day 3, but which tanks for which team as we get into ban phase 1?
Well, no Gragas so far. We're probably going to get, Cho'gath, Maokai, Sejuani. If they are not banned away, they should be picked up by both the teams. We know Unicorns want to play late game team fighting. We saw Fnatic against Vitality even before this patch already started playing team fight AD carries. We saw Gragas as well coming in, Sejuani for Broxah. First though, Xerxe and his champion pool. As you can see, we can barely fit in everything. We didn't even get the Cho'gath in from week 7 because this man is playing everything.
Yeah, Xerxe has such a deep champion pool, and every week you don't know what he's going to bring out. There's always that excitement. There's always the possibility of the Kane. We saw it work out fantastically over in North America, but the question is, will it fit into the Unicorns of Love style? Because things like the Cho'gath are still high in priority.
Always the thing about Kane, he is risky. If you can execute him, if you can, of course, use him to assassinate some of these tanks in the late game and get good early ganks off, yes, he can work. But he's not as safe as the big tanks in the jungle. This draft right now, Braum being removed by Unicorns. I think it's smart. It is a good champion for Jesiz.
I also think it's interesting that Elise is still being left open. I don't believe that Fnatic are likely to ban it, even though we did see it come out from Xerxe in week 6. Ooh, it looks like they're still going to show that respect over to the Unicorns jungler.
Yeah, also just respecting Elise as a champion and the power she still offers in the early game. Of course, a man we need to look at as well is Rekkles. As you can see here, Varus and Sivir. Now that is not too weird in itself that an AD carry will play those champions, but Rekkles, of course, it is unique that he's actually picking some of these champions that benefit from team fighting and can also help his team and not just himself.
Utility on Rekkles?
I know, it's amazing. There's some coming in right there.
Yeah, and this is one of the big shifts that we did see from Fnatic last week and coming into this week, very much trying to get themselves a winning bottom lane matchup. Kalista Thresh, so strong in the 2 versus 2, but Unicorns, they're going to answer with a staple.
Well, there you go. The Unicorns of Lovers bottom lane again. Xayah and Rakan to go with that Cho'gath for UOL. It feels like yet another game they get the duo.
And I'm a simple man, so when I see Cho'gath, I want to see engage with him. I want to see things that can actually enable Cho'gath in team fights, and that's where Rakan will shine. Talisman is going to come in from him. Of course, he already will offer engage on his own, so that's a good thing to make Cho'gath even better.
And one of the big problems that the Unicorns of Love had against Rakan was this Galio pick, because every time that they tried to interrupt, they always got in the way of disengaging the engage tools that Unicorns of Love have. So I wonder whether or not they will actually put this Cho'gath in the jungle, or they move it up into the top lane for Chachi.
I think it just depends on what we see from Fnatic. If you see a Gnar come in as an answer, then Cho'gath probably moves into the jungle. If you don't see the Gnar, then you can easily keep their Cho'gath top lane. Maokai is still available if Unicorns want to pick that for the jungle. Fnatic already showed the Sejuani, and we have not seen the Maokai top lane yet in Europe, only over in North America.
And I feel like that with these bans, we're looking right now at a Jarvan in the top lane for Fnatic. One of Soaz's more comfort picks. It synergizes nicely with the team fight composition. And you could also round things out with something like a Taliyah, given that some of the power mid laners have gone away, or you could just go for the safe Syndra.
And if we do see that Jarvan, then I really want to see Maokai from Unicorns put Cho'gath top lane, run so much engaged that it's actually impossible for you to not get a team fight. Like, unless you run straight into a wall with all 5 members, you will get your team fight.
Well, Unicorns have done that even without team compositions with all that much power.
It gets even better if you actually get all the engage.
Let's see whether or not Unicorns agree. We're into the last 2 picks here. It was Orianna for Fnatic. It feels like a fairly well-rounded team composition already.
Oh!
And it's Talon Shen!
Oh, the lethality changes did give birth to the return of some assassins, but so many of the pros said we're not likely to see it in the mid lane. Lethality is still heavily countered by tanks, and this is even a rough match.
Gentlemen,
Talon.
does this count as #cheese or not?
Yeah, I guess yes, but I'm not a fan of the cheese.
I don't know, man.
This is so risky.
So risky.
Because, so, the problem, of course, for Talon is when he builds all this lethality, tanky members will have a lot of armor and they will not die to him. So his job is like assassinate a squishy only.
Yeah, his goal is not to kill that Sejuani. His eyes are on Rekkles. He wants to shut him down, but with the Shen still being available, that's going to make it so much harder for Talon to have that level of impact.
So I know we're obviously looking at a lot of Talon right now. I'm still happy to see the Maokai come in from Unicorns of Love as well. So you have insane team fighting engage comp. Talon as well as an assassin. Of course, does offer some AoE damage, and he can get onto one single target in a fight and try and take them down. But again, it's a big risk. Also because we have to highlight, they're picking this champion that needs to snowball
Yeah.
for a mid laner who's done a very bad job in the early game for the entire split.
Ooh, question marks all around. Can Unicorns make this pick work? I also want to see how Shen performs in Soaz's hands, because I thought he wasn't going to play the dog champ again. And I quote from Soaz's Twitter, Dylan Falco maybe being a little more involved in the team-based pick.
I mean, what's better than a Shen ulti against an assassin?
Exactly.
Not a, maybe a Galio ulti can help you there, but he was banned away. So I think that was the response to the Talon specifically, even though the Shen up in the top lane, obviously, it's not going to be as impactful in the late game as a Cho'gath.
But when I see this Maokai jungle, I get so excited as someone who loves to play these assassins because he makes it so easy to set up ganks in the middle lane. And the moment that Ori's flash is down, it becomes a prime target to snowball on in the early game.
Oh, prime target, or is Exileh still the target? Love Hurts crew taking on the Fnatic Faithful. It's the Unicorns of Love versus Fnatic for the last time in cross-group play. Let's see if the Kings of Europe, Fnatic, can maintain that lead. Gentlemen, they've only dropped 3 games, all split long, and Fnatic are on an 8-game winning streak. Will they continue that here against the Unicorns of Love?
Well, that's what I'm looking forward to. Right now, they have a beautiful teamfight composition. They've been working on adapting their style, and we'll see if the fruits of their labor have come to fruition.
It's getting loud in here.
Oh, it's getting super loud.
Getting very loud. So let's see, Fnatic are hiding in the Dragon Pit. Hoping maybe that someone sneaks by, that they can then jump from behind. Will they put a ward over the wall maybe? They're actually just waiting for someone to invade him for their blue buff and put a ward down. And then they're like, surprise! And then they get a kill. Sadly, no one actually invaded for blue buff.
No surprise party today. In the meanwhile, UOL, they'll take the defensive stance. That Cho'gath will be going up into the top lane along with the Maokai jungle. We already saw it earlier in the day in the Vitality versus G2 series. We've been seeing a lot of very fast clears coming out from the Maokai, Mr. Deficio.
Yeah, we're gonna get another one because he has his bot lane, who is now saying, you know what, we don't need the early advantage in the bottom lane itself, so we will instead help the Maokai.
And you can see here where he's put the second sapling. It's slightly further back in the brush, which means that they'll use the first one to get the bonus damage onto the red. Then they'll leash it onto the red buff with the second one, and that should give the red buff over to the Maokai to make that early clear super quick.
While he's busy doing the Raptors on his own, so they're really speeding up Xerxe right now. It might be a surprise early game top lane. We've seen that like 2 minutes and 30 suddenly, no, they got it, okay, they're safe.
Little bit
the last
close.
one, they got it.
That last little proc there from the sapling. So Xerxe gonna be able to clear out 2 quick camps as Broxah got a pretty hard leash from Rekkles and Jesiz as well on his blue. And let's see whether or not Fnatic are ready for any shenanigans that Xerxe can get up to.
Yeah, because now 2 minutes and 10, he's already at his blue buff. He's gonna take that down pretty quickly. Smite is available, and then he can show up top lane. And Soaz, if he's pushing by any means, he will just die straight away to a flash twisted advance from Xerxe.
Well, excited setup here. That point and click CC makes it so easy for Vizicsacsi. I've heard both Deficio and Veduis talking so much about how you need some hard initiation first for Cho'gath to do better.
Oh, you can also see the Maokai actually go mid lane. No cleanse on caps. He's running barrier to avoid some of the burst from the Talon. He will find Xerxe. So I guess now kind of spotted.
And I think that's a lot of good respect being shown from Caps right there. He has to be so mindful of the early snowball of Exileh. The thing about Talon is his true strength comes from his ability to roam. But the only way in which you can really roam is if you have that ability to push in and then have the freedom, along with the vision, to move around the maps and engage happens.
Oh, the hook connects, so does the entrance. A little bit of damage back and forth for that Gleaming Quill.
I like the engage here from Jesiz. He has an army of minions right next to him, so actually real no way for Unicorns to fight back and stay in that 2v2. Another thing about that Talon, and of course it's the classic of you say, ooh, this pick is so risky, and then he goes 10-0 and everyone's like, haha, look, see, Talon is great. But Unicorns have such a great comp. If they just drafted a standard mid laner, I think most people at home would be like, wow, that's like almost the perfect 7-14 composition they are running. But now they are gambling, and they want to make this Talon work.
Yeah, but the thing is, the reason they're gambling and why we're hesitant to believe is Exileh has been the weakest link of the Unicorns of Love. This is a guy for weeks on end now, has been struggling. And yes, we have seen growth over the last week, but it needs to be significantly more for this pick to work if you look at some of those stats there.
Yeah, time and time again, we have seen Exileh try to go for those greedy plays in mid. You only have to look back to their series versus Rocket, where he dies underneath his the enemy tower, trying to get that solo kill onto Power of Evil. So being forced onto a Talon does mean that you have to show a lot more respect to your enemy laners. And the one thing we can say about Exileh is when he's forced onto these champions where he's not really in a winning position, he definitely seems to play a lot more reserved. And for the time being, he seems to be doing fine in this lane with the slight CS advantage that he does have.
Yeah, we don't want to see the blind aggression, we want to see the smart aggression.
Yes.
If he knows, okay, here I have a jungler to back me up, or I have as roaming support, I can now actually go for that play and maybe force a summoner, get a kill, then it's fine. But he's against barrier from this Orianna and a Shen ulti, so most of the time when he's jumping in, he probably won't actually one-shot someone.
And gentlemen, of course, it is important to remember that Exileh's team fighting and late game ability is just phenomenal. Even after losing many early games, many laning phases, he finds ways to be impactful, and I don't think that'll quite be the same on a Talon. Oh, a good little hop there from Rekkles as he uses that martial cadence. And by the way, Fnatic have been in UOL's face the entire time, plus 15 CS in that bottom lane.
A lot of pressure being exerted. We talked a lot about this during Champ Stakes. Another hook lands.
Well, into the Flay as well. Couple of stacks loaded up. The Rend pops down. Rekkles and Jesiz having a field day in the bottom lane.
And this is one of the shifts that Fnatic have chosen to go for, giving Rekkles and Jesiz that winning bottom lane in the early game. Caps has a favorable matchup in mid because he will have the early push. He just has to be careful of the level 6 mark, and while top lane is just two tanks slapping each other in the face. But Chachi's getting pretty low.
All right, a lot of trading back and forth. Vizicsacsi's got minions to work with, though. Soaz fighting into an army. Flash taunt was available.
Yeah, I think what Soaz wanted to do was at least try and have the flash go towards Vizicsacsi and not even actually flash himself, but then force Chachi to actually respect that and flash away. Too many minions, though, around Soaz and no vision of the jungler at the moment. Actually, might have seen the Maokai on bottom side, but still, he didn't go for it.
We're trading back and forth there. Exileh respecting the ball as we have a brief pause, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like it's on the UOL side, but I will get confirmation for you shortly. But man, you can feel the tension building already as Fnatic's dual lane is in the face of UOL, and we're catching a glimpse of Exileh shoving into Caps.
Yeah, so I want to also use this as an opportunity to talk a little bit about lethality too, because while you've heard a lot on many broadcasts talk about how lethality sucks against tanks. The thing about lethality is it is flat armor penetration, which means that if you have little armor, it is extremely effective. And one of the recent changes that did happen was that it now scales off of your own level. So let's say you're a level 16 Talon and you see a juicy level 14 AD carry, you are still going to obliterate them. You still have a huge amount of burst damage, and that's part of the reason why you have this Shen come in, the Orianna shield too. There are a lot of defenses because you are still very squishy if you are stacking that lethality later into the game.
Yeah, and obviously people were talking about lethality being broken in solo queue, which is very true because the coordination is not there from a lot of teams. You get a lot of these squishy comps where you can actually abuse these assassins. But what so often happens in professional play is if that champion who builds lethality doesn't really snowball almost perfectly, you get into the late game stage and you have to play team fights against things like Lockets in there. That's going to be like Face at the Mountain maybe. The enemy team can build ninja tappies. There's Shen ulti coming in. There's a shield from an Orianna. Can go on to Rekkles as well. And suddenly the coordination is there to actually protect that guy who's getting jumped by the lethality user, and it suddenly loses a bit of its effect. But that's always the risk you're taking. If you can snowball a game cleanly, these kind of comps can work.
All right, if you can snowball cleanly. We're 5 minutes in. We haven't had a chance to get a snowball going in either direction. So let's see what Unicorns can do. As an update for you guys, as you can see on your screen, it is a Fnatic pause. It is related to audio. This is something that's impacting both teams in terms of team communication. So while our communication experts and QA guys are busy looking into the problem, we'll talk a little bit more about these team comps. We've gone over the Talon, we've gone over the lethality, and we've gone over the style that UOL have to play. It feels like their team comp is a little more 7-14. Whereas on the Fnatic side, it just feels like it's Fnatic. Shen in the top lane, a little bit of engage in the jungle, fairly well-rounded. What do you think, Deficio?
I mean, I think Fnatic's comp is fine for the meta as well. Like, you are running with double frontline tanks. You have, of course, a lot of teamfight focus with Orianna and even the Kalista Thresh combo. So I think Fnatic are drafting okay here in the 7-14 meta. I just think it could have looked much better for Unicorns if they had Cho'gath, Maokai, and let's just say, you know, it's whatever. Talia, like whatever standard mid laner in the mid lane, and then suddenly you actually had a comp with insane engage, great scaling, great team fight, and it would be very difficult, I think, for Fnatic to play their composition. But obviously they would have drafted a Shen then, most likely.
One of the slight advantages I would give to the Unicorns of Love is that when you look at the Talon and the Rakan specifically, the amount of mobility and pick potential that they do have is actually very impressive. So if they can get a good setup of vision, they have a good opportunity to punish the low mobility targets of someone like an Orianna and just keep trying to get those kills over and over. But you have to have good vision for that. And while Unicorns have been improving their vision, they're still one of the weaker teams regarding it.
All right, we'll keep our eyes on the vision. You saw the teams on stage chatting, that is, as they were checking out their communication headsets. And we have deemed that the problem is resolved. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump back into Fnatic taking on the Unicorns. As a brief summary, Snowball is the name of the game for this Talon. And we'll find out whether or not any ganks can happen.
Especially also because Unicorns of Love are mainly running with physical damage here. Xayah and Talon, of course, the feast from Cho'gath is true damage, so you're not really gonna build anything defensive to help you against that one. So you will see Fnatic just get a ton of armor once we go later into this game, and then it gets harder and harder for Samux and Exileh to carry.
Yeah, if you're an Orianna, one of the best things you can actually do against someone like a Talon is just rush a Seeker's Arm Guard or go for a very early cloth arm. You could even go for the armor boots too, just to add insult to injury. And that's going to force the Talon to roam around the map early, see if he can find some other opportunities. But you can already see vision being set up deep in the bottom half of Fnatic's jungle because they're afraid of this possible roam.
I think we might have to see Xerxe actually focus on this mid and bot lane.
Yep.
Okay, if he goes towards mid lane, puts pressure on Caps, let's say you force a flash, you force him maybe out of the laning phase, then you suddenly can take over the river and you can actually enable the Talon roaming towards the bottom side. Another option, of course, is the big feast up in the top lane with Vizicsacsi. If he's already getting Soaz pretty low, a quick gank from a Talon is enough to kill Soaz, and you actually attack the global as well. So there are two lanes you can go towards. You just got to be able to leave the lane first.
And it has to be clean, right? We need to see this clear and clean communication. We'll keep tracking the vision. That might indicate which direction the teams will go. Fnatic's wards just timed out. Take a look at your itemization. The Rekkles special. Berserker Greaves into double attack speed daggers versus the BF sword for Samux. And a little bit of a warding mission here for Jesiz and Broxah.
Something that you will see from Hylissang all the time is after his first base, he will always roam. Usually he tries to go mid, sometimes he'll go top, but he always looks for a roaming opportunity. And with a Talon, I think that's the best thing you can do, as Soaz gets a little low up top lane.
You can see these traits right now. Suddenly a Talon shows up, or maybe a gank from Xerxe, and that is a kill for Vizicsacsi with Feast. He might actually just get it on his own.
This is scary. The feral scream gonna get sidestepped as Chachi expected Soaz to back away. If I look at the minimap, Xerxe sitting around the mid lane as Jesiz runs into Hilly, gets the flay down, and there's potential across the map, but no real hard initiation. Okay, another quick trade in the top lane. As Spirit's Refuge comes down from Soaz, blocks a couple of autos, but nothing yet, Veduis.
I love the tension that you're already building, Quickshot, as both teams yet to get themselves an early kill, but just as a bit of fun information, Broxah actually he's looking for a bit of a roam mid. He is level 6, does have the LT.
All right, Glacial Prison. Will it lock anybody down? Will it set up any kill?
But for the time being, no. He's just going to disengage. There's vision there from the Unicorns of Love. They're aware that Broxah's trying to do. So with regards to a bit of solo Q-tips, what we heard from Alfari yesterday on the desk was that typically you want to be maxing W early on the Cho'gath. We might not have time as an engage happens, but
it does indeed. Grand entrance up onto Rekkles. Exhaust is used, healed as well. Samux and Hilly running for their life, though. That was just the Ignite used for 2 summoners on Fnatic.
That's still a worthy trade for the Unicorns of Love. This bottom lane loves to trade aggressively. They love to be in your face, using this duo to try and exert their pressure. But for the time being, they're just going to use that to
Oh,
try and
solo
hold back the
Q-tip.
CS.
Give me the solo
The
Q-tip.
solo Q-tip, right, the solo Q-tip. So usually Cho'gath top lanes, they will max W first. But what you'll see Chachi doing is he's actually maxing the E. And what you have to remember is that the more fee stacks you have, the more percentage health damage that E does. And the slow is very effective against sticking onto the Shen, but also it's because of the percentage health damage that it makes it very valuable into that match.
He's against a tank up in that top lane, so that is what you're going for. Also a tank who's stacking early magic resist, of course, for himself to reduce the damage of W. Let's see you down bottom lane.
Hylissang's in trouble. No! Manages to get out to safety. Manages to dash up. Featherstorm comes down. Jesiz has got Stand United. Hilly and Samux running for their lives. Hilly's still got flash available to him. Gets over the wall. The Rend comes down. Soaz takes a couple of tower shots and nobody dies.
Soaz very close to losing his life there, was just able to get out of tower range. But this is a very classic Fnatic move. They use the Shen ult to make a play bot, but they don't get anything for it.
Yeah, and that's very big for Unicorns of Love. Shen right now as a champion really needs to succeed with the first few ultis. Otherwise, he tends to get outscaled by some of these other big tanks and bruisers in the top lane. First one right there. Got a few summoners, but no kill for Fnatic. No early tower just yet.
How juicy of a target is Samux and Hilly now. Flashes available for Rekkles and Jesiz, and nothing for the UOL bottom lane. And Broxah has yet to make a gank appearance as it stands, but comfortably farming up 64 creeps in the jungle.
Well, that's always the lovely things about tank junglers. If you can't really find a gank, it's okay. You can just keep farming because you're really strong in the late game anyway. You're not an elite who needs to get all the lanes rolling. Caps, though, right now, might be going Rod of Ages on this Orianna here in the mid lane.
I got a quick stat for you guys. The Unicorns of Love have not had a single game this split where they've gone deathless by 15 minutes. The clock is now ticking. 3 minutes 45 to see whether or not they will concede a kill. And I believe the latest first blood in summer is 18 minutes and 31 seconds.
Yeah, and let's praise that, because Unicorns of Love in this game have not actually gone for any crazy aggressive moves where you're like, oh, what's happening right there? Exileh has been chilling in the mid lane. We haven't seen him go aggressive. Haven't seen him use a summoner spell here in the early game to try and force any fights. Xerxe has been farming in the jungle, so only Hylissang is kind of getting close to potentially getting caught out. We saw that play before, but they have not made any risky moves just yet.
The only thing I'm disappointed about a little bit is the early game potential that Xerxe had that he has not quite been able to exert. I feel like that with Maokai, it's so easy to just walk into a lane and just relieve some of the pressure, especially on someone like Exileh or down in the bottom lane where you have so many ganking opportunities. I would have loved to seen him on this Maokai try to make a little bit more happen for the Unicorns of Love in the early game. But the fact that for the most part, the majority of these lanes are even does not necessarily mean that that's a bad thing for the Unicorns.
Well, let's take a look. Another initiation opportunity. Hylissang looks for the grand entrance. Rekkles with a respect flash. He instantly gets out. Hylissang throws down the quickness and manages to walk away.
Yeah, another thing we wanted to look at was the early vision for Unicorns of Love. Right now, they've done a great job setting up the bottom side. Tons of blue wards in there, even a control ward on the bottom lane, meaning that now you can actually play aggressive because you know where the enemy is on the map. There's no chance of them suddenly appearing and killing a no-flash Samux or no-flash Hylissang. And they get the flash away from Rekkles. Good trade from them. So still no ulti on top side.
And we have to backtrack to what you were talking about earlier, Deficio, where Soaz, he made that ulti play down bot lane, and look at how much damage that tier 1 tower has taken. It is on the verge of falling. They don't even need to send members up top because Chachi is eventually going to get it. Shen at this early on cannot match the pushing of Cho'gath.
There is nothing fun about playing Shen in this position for Soaz. You use your ulti, you don't get a kill, you just sit there, you get pushed into your tower 24/7 top lane, and you know that Cho'gath is way stronger than you later in the game.
And anybody that knows Soaz knows exactly how much he loves that position, right guys? Right? He loves playing Shen in a difficult matchup and really being the team player. That's what he's going to need to do because the Stand United is up. Death Sentence catches onto Hilly. Hylissang manages to make that Samux as he manages to escape. Fate's Call comes out. Glacial Prison has locked it down. Nobody's dead yet. A minute and a half to 15. Will the Unicorns of Love give up first blood? Yes, they will! A second for Rekkles. Death Sentence on the back end won't find a target. Caps is now running for his life. Exile's looking to trade with the rake, the flash, the dash, the smash. Exile gets it.
Exileh is able to get his solo kill outplay onto Caps, but I don't know if he can get away with his life. Shen is on the hunt.
Let's find out. Can Soaz guess? Yes! Scrying Bloom. That's going to reveal. Shadow dash over the wall.
He's gotta go for the
Could be up.
execute.
There's a flash as well. Assassin's Path. Exile's going to look for the execute. Tower First Blood. Secured by the Unicorns, I believe.
Yeah, a lot of things just happened right there. Unicorns got that Inferno Drake, but there was still no summoner spells on the bottom lane, so they were caught in that river. Couldn't really get out in time. Fnatic with some kills there. Exileh though with that outplay in the mid lane. We have to remember Caps is not building early armor. He was sitting on Rod of Ages. The lethality is super effective then against him. This is a fight from before. No summoners here for both Rakan and Xayah. So once the fight is actually started, they can't really get out.
And the big thing here is the Shen ulti. If it was still a 3 versus 3, maybe UOL could have gotten out. But the moment Soaz is on his way, you know that things are guaranteed to go sour for the Unicorns of Love. They had the guaranteed numbers advantage. But let's see how Exileh gets onto Caps.
Yeah, you can see Exileh here, actually with the big brain, managed to get the advantage over Caps. Caps is like, haha, I'm gonna flash behind the Talon so that W is not actually gonna hit me on the way back. But Exileh's like, nah, I'm just gonna flash with you.
So good.
And it's actually going to hit you. So Exileh one step ahead of Caps right there.
But also recognize that Exileh was level 10 versus a level 11 Orianna who had barrier, had everything, and decided to rush health rather than armor. You touched on this earlier, Deficio, and I feel like that is very disrespectful. He wanted to try and still get some scaling into the later game rather than just itemizing early to try and deal with the Talon.
Yeah, the answer to flat armor pen is not more HP. It's armor.
Yeah.
That's how you reduce that flat armor pen from actually being very, very good against you.
Well, Caps has got a cloth armor. It's,
Yeah, he's going there now. So
it's a start.
he will be fine. You can then obviously go back and say, hey, Caps, was that 1v1 necessary? Maybe not, and then he would still been fine.
All right, let's take a look what happens. Hylissang runs in with the quickness available to him. There's a melee in the mid lane. Featherstorm's already used, but Caps is down. Exileh has decided to play today. Broxah's holding on to his glacial prison. Up on the front line, Soaz needs to take the lantern to safety. The box buys some time, but UOL get a second. They take the lead in kills. Blast cone over the wall for Soaz, and Fnatic are running for their lives. The Love Hurts crew erupt in chance.
And this is why you needed to respect the mobility coming out from the Unicorns of Love, but I don't think the action's quite over yet.
Oh no, oh no, Samux, you've got no flash, no escape, and this should be an easy kill for Rekkles and Fnatic.
Classic Fnatic thing where you don't expect him to stay around, that is hiding around the corner, making this little play here to get a kill in the bottom lane. But meanwhile, Unicorns of Love, after winning the fight mid, get also the tower.
And just look at how quickly Unicorns of Love can engage onto the flashless Orianna. There's not enough there to peel him. The flash engage from Hylissang, the follow-up from the Maokai, the root to just make sure the rest of Fnatic can't keep him alive, and then Exileh's able to quickly clean up the kill.
And this is why in the pick and ban phase, we wanted to see Rakan, Maokai, these kind of champions with the Cho'gath, champions that can just guarantee a fight is started. Because how do you escape a point-on-click CC from Maokai? You can't. As soon as he's in range, he's onto you. Then you can have the follow-up from a Cho'gath as well with his feast, and it's very easy for Unicorns to kill one target every time.
And that's what Unicorns are going to do to steamroll the rest of the fight. Talking about killing one target, Righteous Glory on Vizicacsi's Cho'gath. Get him in range as quick as possible. We've had that Duskblade and Essence Reaver for Exileh and Samux, and now those first-tier pickups slowly trickling in. Rekkles, Blade of the Rude King. Soaz slowly working towards some armor. And of course, double for Rekkles. That's a triple now. Fnatic 3 kills, UOL 3 kills. It's an even game at 18 minutes.
And if you're a Unicorns fan, this is great to see, because one of the big things that we wanted was Exileh to be stepping up. He picks a Talon, very risky, very big gamble, and so far he is making it work. He's getting that early snowball off. Going for an early Duskblade, usually you want this if you are looking to try and snowball that lead because of the extra burst it gives, but we have more action down bottom.
We do indeed. Exileh was forced to use that Shadow Assault to safety. Jesiz needs to get the swing and the connect to the Death Sentence. Not going to find the target yet. He does against the wall, follows it through. There's backup from Broxah. Yes, Jesiz getting chunked down. Glacial Prison just to buy some time. Nature's Grasp going to lock down Fnatic on the retreat. Rekkles finds himself a break.
Oh, he gets so He got rooted.
The root flashed into it. Unicorns are not done yet. They're chasing down Broxah, knocked up. The shockwave from Caps is good. Too little, too late.
And see, right now, we see that Talon get early kills. Duskblade is completed. We just saw the damage right there onto Rekkles. It is insane how much damage he can deal against these squishy targets. And the rest of Unicorns, they managed to follow up. One mistake here from Fnatic, and they get punished so hard.
And it was just Fnatic trying to make a play onto Exileh in the side lane, and UOL responded so well. This team is so effective at responding to pressure plays that are made by their opposition. Every time you think things are going in favor in your end, Unicorns always somehow find a way to answer back.
And now we're just gonna see Exileh be able to actually always single out someone like Rekkles here in these mid-game fights. There's not enough gold on the side of Fnatic to get all the defensive tools you need to protect your AD carry. And meanwhile, the other 4 members on the side of Unicorns are perfect at starting team fights on their own. So you can have 4 members running straight at Fnatic, and when they're busy dealing with them, Exileh shows up from the side and kills the backline.
Well, Fnatic are now in a slightly more difficult position. The one champion on the Unicorn squad that Fnatic did not want to get rolling was that Talon. And Exileh's looking for some targets. Because hops over the wall, Caps is able to escape. Forced to flash though, keep that in mind. Continues to back away into the tower. Vizicsacsi already at 3,000 hit points. Got himself that Abyssal Mask to back up the Righteous Glory. And Unicorns, yes, they got a 1,500 gold lead, but they are dictating the flow of the game at 20 minutes.
So it's important to remember that while things are looking great for the early game of Unicorns of Love, they need to keep this momentum going as they look for another engage.
All right, Nature's Grass comes down, and no kitty cats to play today. Exileh may not need any support, though he almost solos Jesiz.
Important to highlight that Maokai works the best is like follow-up engage, but let's see what happens here.
Well, follow-up, there's no Nature's Grass now. Hilly forced to go in and go out. Chachi feasts down Caps. Shockwave not even available. Good Shadow Dash taunt under the tower, and look at all those Ren stacks. Oh, Chachi, they go down. Shut down. Broxah's used the prison. The feathers come out, though. That kills Jesiz. Unicorns on the retreat. Rekkles, the only damage dealer for Fnatic.
Here we see the way for Unicorns to start every single fight. It's Hylissang going in first, then the Maokai, then the Cho'gath. They will follow up. They can't really go in first. We saw that ulti earlier from Xerxe. It is so slow. It's never really gonna start the fight for you, but it's great when the fight is already on.
But it's also so difficult for Fnatic to stop them, because with the recent coin changes, now whenever you run towards a person with it, you get bonus movement speed. Add to the fact that there's a Righteous Glory, add to the fact that you have a Talon and a Maokai, like, there's nothing you can do. It is so easy for UOL to just be like, we're going in and we're stampeding.
Yeah, and also you fed the Talon. That too. That's pretty bad, because now in these fights here, sure, it's not just about Exileh. It's, you know, Vizicsacsi with the skill here, clicking R on a target as well, is worth highlighting, but the comp is so good at constantly forcing team fights, and now that this Talon will just be able to assassinate people as well, then every single member is strong on the side of Unicorns.
And it's difficult for Fnatic to find their way back in now, because Caps, he's being forced onto this scaling build. He's not really going to have any real damage until this 3rd or 4th item, maybe once he gets the Void Staff, once his Rod of Ages fully stacks up. But they're going to have to delay, they're going to have to wait, and Unicorns of Love are not giving them the room to breathe.
Oh, what a great performance from UOL to open up this series. Remember I said at the beginning, Fnatic are on an 8-game winning streak. And Unicorns being led by Exileh, the man that has received so much criticism. All right, Soaz and Chachi, they're going to continue trading here. Back and forth. And
the classic
Exileh
Rekkles gank.
Such a good game. Let's see if there's any support. All right, here comes Rekkles. Stands right on top of the rupture. Got himself the Hurricane and Blade of the Ruined King. Righteous Glory comes down.
Eat him, Chachi.
Available to Chachi, so he can't go for the execute.
He's no feast, you're right.
One big rend available.
The greatest outplay against the Cho'gath is to run backwards.
Run away! Run away!
Listen to the Fnatic faithful here in Berlin. Half the crowd cheering for Fnatic, half the crowd cheering for UOL. And this game far from over.
And we were still so early in the game that Unicorns did not feel comfortable just rushing at the Baron and say, yes, okay, AD carry might be bot lane, but if we go Baron here, he won't be able to join the fight. Sadly, I think they probably realized they would take too much damage from it. It's not a lot of armor on Xerxe just yet. And then they had to just see the top laner die.
Well, thank you, Flash33C. Yes, we are passionate in Europe, aren't we? Let's find out which European fan favorite is victorious. Gentlemen, this is a very exciting game. The gold is still even. It's an Infernal Drake apiece, and Deficio's favorite, Cloud Drake, is the next to contest.
You just had to say it.
Of course. I'm never going to let that one die. And let's see whether or not Unicorns will be willing to start a team fight over it. I feel like they will. I feel like they'll start a team fight over anything with this comp.
Well, I feel like the Baron's going to be the bigger point of contention right now.
But you can team fight over Baron.
You can very much so, and Fnatic, they're going to kick off the fight as the TP comes in from Chachi.
Oh, it's going to be a big one. Fang, you got to run. You got to run real fast.
Well, they are indeed. Nature's Grasp is available to Xerxe, and it's
Unicorn's
a
gonna start it.
pretty wide skill shot.
I just feel like Unicorns, they're going to take this gamble. They're going to try and force Fnatic into the fight.
Not yet, though.
Control ward down. Unicorns, they know that they can actually just basically click Righteous Glory and then rush in with Hylissang.
Fnatic's like, no, we were kidding.
Nature's Grasp, Xerxe's got such a long range. There we go.
Look at
Fnatic
Cats.
kind of splits up. Rekkles is on the side. Chachi's taking a lot of Ren stacks automatically.
Let's remember, we want Hylissang to go in first.
Oh,
and the
huge
follow-up.
ulti.
Glacial Prison catches Exile. Exile's gone forward. He intercepts him. Rekkles stands waiting. He's not down yet. All of a sudden, Exile's killed. Rekkles drops immediately thereafter. That's one carry apiece. The Shockwave smashes UOL. A double kill. Not done yet. Fnatic chasing Unicorns of Love. It's a 3 for 3 as both teams have lost 2. The Grand Entrance comes back in. The taunt, the dash. But look at the damage from Caps. He's helped by Broxah. Fnatic are destroying Unicorns.
Such a spectacular team fight from both teams. Small outplays coming out from either side, but it is Fnatic that get the team fight win. Only Xerxe left at the very end, and let's see how this fight kicks off.
All right, Xerxe ends up going in first, uses the ulti very early, but right now you can see Hylissang is not really in the fight, Exile is not really in the fight, so Unicorns have to back away, and then Soaz, with also the ulti coming from Broxah, actually gets onto Exile. He has to use everything to try and kill Rekkles. Shen ulti comes in to defend him with some of the tools we talk about to try and keep Rekkles alive, and they do manage to keep him alive for long enough that they actually also get Exile down before Rekkles dies.
And it's really worth praising how much work Soaz did, zoning so many members away from the main damage dealers that you think everything is disastrous, but then again, Soaz gets a beautiful taunt onto the backline to allow Caps to then get that final kill onto Samux, even though Samux uses ulti to dodge the shockwave. Just so many small uses of the great timing to avoid big damage dealers, but eventually Fnatic come out on top.
And we're gonna have about 10 more of these fights.
Yes!
At least 10 more in this game here, because you're gonna see both teams, all they can do to win this game is run at each other and just team fight. No one is gonna win through split pushing here. That doesn't really happen. You just hard engage, and it's gonna be around Baron, mid lane, Drake, it doesn't matter. A ward, a little Raptor camp, like you can always find something to fight over.
But things are gonna get harder and harder for the Unicorns of Love as we progress, because you saw how difficult it was for Exile to kill Rekkles. Chachi, he's just going.
He's going out of the tower. Use the Righteous Glory. Vizicsacsi, this is definitely a style I've seen before. Caps gets a 3-man shockwave. Already used the flash. Barrier's a few seconds away, but he survives.
Hylissang right there managed to actually engage onto him. Bot lane, Chachi is still behind the tower, trying to get onto Soaz. Meanwhile, Caps is going back to base. Unicorns pushing for mid lane.
He wants to keep the pressure on him to make sure that Soaz can't TP in, but now Xerxe, he's looking for a chase. Remember, Caps, no flash. They're getting priority around the Baron.
Some big items here as well for Fnatic to keep Rekkles and Caps alive. Knight's Vow is completed for Broxah to reduce some of the damage taken. I think he put it on Rekkles early on.
And Rekkles, he's completed his 3rd item already. UOL, they're going to start off the Baron, but the TP is coming in for Soaz.
All right, Exile is aware of it. Soaz is in so much trouble.
Why?
Knocked up, silence. He's going to be dead. Lantern available, but not able to get taken.
Yeah, it's crunch time for Chachi.
Caps was still running from base. Oh, Soaz, he just had to try and cancel that one and then walk towards the fight. He still had his Shen ulti as well.
I think that's a Righteous Glory that was thrown down, if I read that correctly. Caps, by the way, Shockwave on cooldown. Nature's Grasp on cooldown. And Unicorns decide not to opt into a pit fight.
So you can see now, Hylissang, he's completed his support item. It gives you that extra mobility as Jess is forced to pull out of the fight.
Oh, Fate's call from Rekkles. That's one less tool for another team fight. The prison is up. The Shockwave is up. Caps has found his targets already.
15 seconds on Soaz. He does have ulti. Here comes the zoning Maokai ult to force Fnatic away from the tower. Another way you can use it.
One last auto there. Secures and Deficio. Unicorns of Love, 3 towers to 2 at 27 minutes. They peel back to the Baron with Chachi on the front line. Gargle, Stoneplate, Righteous Glory, Abyssal Mask. He's a beefy, beefy monster.
I feel like if Unicorns of Love now, you just go back. You need to restock your vision. You need to get more control wards. Baron will be the big name of the game for you moving forward. They don't care about that. They're just going to try and force it. A lot of ultis are down.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. Fnatic have Locket completed as well on Broxah. Even more shielding for the carries.
This is fast.
Remember, the feast can be used on Baron as well.
Death sentence, didn't find anybody. Hylissang's gone in with a flash knockup. Look at the Shockwave pulling 3 backwards. That's already Exile. down. Fnatic on the front line as Rekkles gets silence and runs for his life. Glacial Prison buys so much time. Rekkles takes down Vizicsacsi, and Fnatic even a kill score.
This was so risky for the Unicorns of Love. We talked about how they needed to go back. They needed to reset. They tried to force a fight, and now it's Fnatic starting up the Baron.
Xerxe is still around. Flash Smite is available, but there's a Kalista on the other side. It should be impossible for Unicorns to steal it. They realize it, they back away. And right there, we see what happens when Unicorns cannot execute their teamfighting comp. The engage from Hylissang did not really manage to do a whole lot for them, and that means the follow-up couldn't really do a whole lot either.
Yeah, you need to keep track of what Exile's trying to do. In this long river, he can only run in a straight line, which makes it extremely easy for Soaz to taunt the right target, and then the follow-up from the rest of the team to just shut down the main damage dealer. With Exile gone and no threat to the backline, that allows Fnatic to just group up as a bunch and just keep hitting the next target closest to them.
Yeah, can't actually fall Hylissang at all because he got onto Rekkles, and he was kind of like setting him up for the carries to get onto him, but as you just highlighted there, couldn't really get to him. And then Exile on this Talon here did not manage to do anything really in this fight, and it gets harder and harder. We keep talking about it. Night's Vow, Locket, all these items here ready to keep the carries alive.
And I'm going to go back to what you guys both said earlier in the game and in picks and bans. The Unicorns' team composition was quite reliant on snowballing, getting a lead, and then playing clean macro. Not a risky play, not a 50-50 play. And with this Hourglass picked up by Caps, it's another tool for him to use to avoid this burst damage.
Yeah, and the big reason why Unicorns had to rely on snowballing, despite having great scaling with the tanks and even with the Xayah, was just because of Talon. One champion alone actually played how Unicorns had to play out their game. If they had drafted against a scaling mid laner,
Vladimir.
whatever, you know, just whatever scaling mid laner, they could have taken Fnatic in late game team fights. But due to Talon, it gets really hard. It can still happen. You can definitely still execute one of the carries, but it is not easy for Unicorns.
And I feel like UOL, they played the early game fantastically. They found a lot of great fights. They were off to a good start. But I just think that that Baron right there, that decision to try and force that fight rather than just reset is what has put them in the position that they're now in. But Fnatic with the Baron, they're in a great position now. They can start grouping up, setting up the 1-4. They've already got the slow push down in the bottom lane, and they are ready to force a fight whenever they want.
Honestly, I think Unicorns of Love said, we have 3 items on Talon. It's a great power spike. We want to just fight, fight, fight. Use the Baron to force the fight. So they were happy to see Fnatic walk towards them and be like, great, now we can go aggressive. But then when you lose the team fight, it all backfires and the whole Baron play suddenly looks a little bit goofy.
I mean, they had no Maokai ulti, right? Like, I'm just sitting there wondering, you had so many things on cooldown. There were so many things you should have waited for, and it just didn't work out for them. But again, I think it's really important to highlight how well Fnatic are now setting up. You can see they've got deep vision set up around the top half. They were able to take the tier 2 in the top side, and they're just being gradual with their whittling down of this tower.
Oh, Exile takes so much damage. Here comes the engage from Hylissang. He's already flayed backwards. Nature's Grasp will buy some time.
That engage only got onto Jesiz, who can always just get the Kalista ulti. I don't think actually Unicorns had everyone around to follow up, because as we say again and again, Hylissang dives in, and then from the back you see the Righteous Glory from Vizicsacsi, and you have the movement speed from Talisman to get everyone faster towards Hylissang, and they can rush in and follow up on the engage to kill the back line.
But Deficio, Flash Economics, a class we took a few weeks ago, taught me how important it was. Caps, Rekkles, Soaz, no Flash available. Exile forced to hop over the wall. The Prison tried to snipe and it wasn't even needed. Exile finds nobody, and that means the Unicorns are getting wrecked. 2 members down already, and Fnatic siege the base.
Fnatic with a clean team fight, shut down Exile right to the get-go. They find the targets that they want, and now they're poised and ready to break the base of the Unicorn.
Take a look at Rekkles, the KDA player on the front line, chasing down the Unicorns of Love, trying to shut them down. Inhibitor goes down as Fnatic take absolute control of the game. Only 3 members left for the Unicorns of Love. There's no Baron-empowered minions. This will be a difficult defense.
Fnatic, they're hitting on the base. There's only 3 members of Unicorns left to stand in their way.
I don't think it's going to be enough. There might be a kill, though. Vizicsacsi's not done yet. Grand Entrance knocks up Fnatic. Yes, they got a Nexus tower, but now they're running for their lives. The Rupture slows down Soaz, and the Feral Scream does nothing more.
And it wouldn't be a Fnatic versus Unicorns of Love game without some crazy base fights where suddenly you defend the Nexus, and now we actually see another fight.
We do indeed. Hylissang trying to use the quickness to lock down Fnatic members. Vizicsacsi's coming up on the back end. Soaz is low, so is Broxah. Rekkles is running for his life. Defensive flash on Broxah over the wall. Exileh uses that assassin's path and Rake to sink some diplomacy into Fnatic's back.
There's a Drake alive, no Baron here for Unicorns to take. There's of course all the inhibs available as well. They have no minions right now with them, meaning they can't really rush anything other than that Drake.
How much magic do you believe in if you are a Unicorn supporter? Gentlemen, pop quiz. What is the Fnatic Unicorns of Love all-time EULCS head-to-head? Let me tell you, 12 wins each.
Oh really? 12,
Over the
12.
last 2.5 years, Fnatic and UOL are tied at 12-12. And this series will give at least one team 14 wins before the victor is declared.
Well, both teams have fought hard, but it is Fnatic's game in control right now. And you can see how well the three members of Unicorns were able to hold on to their Nexus towers. And I felt like Rekkles, he just went a little bit too far forward in the fight. It allowed Xerxe to get a great knock-up and silence. Then one of the main damage dealers gets shut down. Caps doesn't really have much to follow up. And then UOL, they can just start the chase. The rest of Fnatic, they're forced to split up. The quickness comes back available for Hylissang, and we come back again to the mobility of this composition from UOL. Makes it super easy for them to just chase down these straggling targets.
Sadly for them, they didn't get any carries down. They did not manage to have any minion waves they could actually use to get maybe an inhib, so they had to just settle for the Cloud Drake. Not exactly what you need to get back in this game. You need something bigger after a fight like that. So Fnatic, still 6k gold ahead. Another locket completed for Jesiz. It's not like they need shielding at this point. Rekkles, as we saw in the last fight, when Exileh jumps in onto him and everything gets popped defensively, Exileh didn't actually manage to deal almost any damage to him.
Can't find that target. You guys talked about all the armor that's going to get picked up. Look at that Thorn Mail, another Chain Vest on the side of Soaz. Elder Dragon's the next one to spawn. Unicorns have not secured a single Elder Dragon all split long, interestingly. And the previous Cloud Drake had a 9-minute shelf life. That's how long it took to kill that value, that objective.
I'm glad this game one is delivering, though, with a lot of fights as well, because the Fnatic Unicorns of Love rivalry, I feel like we've just seen it so many times the last few years. Almost every game is super epic, from the Season 5 spring final in Madrid, where we had the 5 games also between Fnatic and Unicorns of Love. Funny enough, the first split where Unicorns of Love were in the LCS all the way to the final. And so many times we've just seen these guys in the new era, what I call of EULCS since Season 5, where these just go head-to-head.
And technically, 2017, it's Unicorns that are winning. They were in the Spring Split finals. They represented Europe in the Rift Rivals finals. Yes, Fnatic are having a great summer, but they take down UOL, who are having a great 2017.
Oh, they want to rush it down with Feast.
All right, Baron has been started. Glacial Prison comes in. We've already seen a Baron steal today. Not going to happen against UOL. Rekkles hopping, skipping, and jumping in the front line. He gets charmed up by the quickest and knocked down. Exileh fights his man. Unicorns, have they just done it? Have they come back?
Oh, Rekkles, he jumped into melee range of Unicorns of Love, and then they just turned around and killed him instantly. They have the Baron right now, and 2 members dead on Fnatic's side.
Now, they're looking for Caps. They found him.
Oh, Caps is doing a lot of damage down to Exileh. Flashes forward. Exileh's hopped over the wall. Caps finds him. Takes him down. He will get run down by Unicorns.
And he's buying a lot of time. 30 seconds now on Rekkles and Jesiz for them to respawn. Still no minions for Unicorns to use.
But the AD carry is still alive for the Unicorns of Love. This team is so good at making those immediate decisions, and sometimes they're on the edge of a coin flip. Sometimes it goes horribly wrong. Sometimes it goes extremely well. They set up for the Baron. There was a massive risk of it going so wrong, but they realized they had to make this play, and they make it work.
Trusted in the Feast as well from Vizicsacsi, despite Exileh actually picking up the Baron. Need to see that fight again.
That's why he picked the Talon.
That's why, to get secure the Baron. There we go. Fnatic respawning now with the duel, and Caps still dead.
Death Sentence connects onto Chuck.
Why is Fnatic fighting this?
Nature's Grasp comes down. Fnatic feel they've got a shot. Caps 15 seconds before he comes back up. Fate's Call will slow down UOL. The inhibitor's already killed.
UOL, they need to disengage. They could move up to the top side and go for that tier 2 tower if they want to, but Maokai ultimate is unavailable. Exileh is still in base. They want to start pushing this bottom lane and take down that tier 1 for a bit of extra gold.
Oh yeah, the tier 1 is alive.
It is, in fact, still alive because it's all about the mid lane, Deficio. We don't care about Summoner's Rift, we only care about ARAM.
All eyes on Rekkles in this fight here. He has so much protection around him. He jumps in to get as many hits down, but he actually ends up very close to Unicorns of Love. So all of Unicorns, they just turn around and like, wait a minute, you're right next to us.
Hylissang, the man of the hour there. It was Rekkles trying to shut him down. He thought he had enough Ren stacks, but he didn't prop them fast enough. Therefore, he gets the quickness onto him. The AD carry is just left suspended in midair, and the rest of the Unicorns, they stampede across him.
Caps in the end. Does manage to get one kill, but still a good fight for Unicorns of Love. And if you are Fnatic, you don't need to dive the backline of the Unicorns.
Yep.
You can kite, keep your Kalista alive, give her 20 million Ren stacks, and then let her actually do her job in these fights here. Don't go too deep, because then Unicorns still have enough burst to kill him.
It's such an exciting game. Fnatic and Unicorns getting close to 40 minutes. And actually, all of a sudden, you feel like Unicorns with Baron buff and super minions in the mid lane, they can stamp their authority. It's a minute until Elder Drake. And as I've mentioned, the Unicorns of Love have not secured a single Elder all summer long.
And I really want to emphasize how this is still a harder game for Unicorns to win than it is for Fnatic, because they have this Talon. He is extremely difficult to play in these late game fights. We've already talked about all the shielding that they have. Think about the damage reduction that sits on top of Rekkles right now, and it becomes so difficult for this guy to get onto the backline and shut down those carries.
But look at this build here from Exileh. He's going for the Gargoyle Stone Plate. Obviously, as a Talon, it's very easy to get in range of 3 enemy champions to get the 100% increase in your HP, but it does reduce your damage if you use it. It might just be like almost a baiting tool from him. When he jumps in, he unleashes all his damage, then he can pop it after when everything is on cooldown, and he won't just die instantly. He might get another rotation off in a potential fight. It is an interesting choice from him. We want to see if he can actually use it in these fights, but it is of course a very broken item in itself, just because it makes you a tank without being a tank.
It's like the AD equivalent of a Zhonya's. Once you've used everything, you can just buy time until either your cooldowns come out, or you can waste the cooldowns of your opposition. So it'll be interesting to see how he makes it work in the fight. As you well, they set it for the Elder.
Oh, this is such a tense moment. This could be the team fight that makes or breaks the game.
There's no flash on Rekkles, no flash on Caps either. 2 targets for Unicorns to kill.
But Fnatic, they have priority in mid, and those super minions are walking down still towards that inhibitor. So UOL, they have to make a split decision now.
All right, Elder Dragon, 8,000 hit points and closing in. Unicorns of Luck. Hylissang looks for the quickness, looks on the back end. Exile's trying to find a target, not going to find his man just yet. Broxah's down though. Exile's escaped. He's managed to make it out. Rekkles still untouched on the front line.
All Exileh did was just buy time, and Unicorns are winning.
Vizicsacsi though gets his man. Keep an eye on Rekkles' HP. He's killed. He's down. Unicorns may have done it.
Unicorns of Love smash through Fnatic. They finally find the perfect fight. Exileh doesn't die, but Unicorns of Love, they lose their AD carry. And Exileh, he's off on the side.
So Exileh is pushing in for another inhib. Soaz trying to TP back. He got interrupted right there. Had to cancel it straight away.
Is there enough time here for the Unicorns to finish? They have 45-second death timers and minions pouring through the bottom lane. Veduis, this feels like games.
So as he's doing everything that he can to try and stop the Unicorns of Love. There's still 10 seconds left on Broxah. He's on his way back. UOL, they're hungry for blood.
Oh, they're fancying themselves a fight. Exileh uses the Shadow Assault. Silences up Soaz. And a nom-nom-nom. Vizicsacsi is fed.
So they didn't win the game right there, but they got another kill for Vizicsacsi and this Cho'gath. Currently sitting on 13 stacks.
And just keep your eyes on Exileh. Look at the path that he takes to dive onto the backline, and Fnatic's response. They're so keen on trying to keep Exileh off of the backline that they just allow Broxah to be nuked down by the 4 members of Unicorn.
That ulti from Xerxe as well actually forced Rekkles to just run. He didn't get any auto attacks off in the start of the fight because he was trying to escape that Maokai ulti, and then after Maokai ulti was gone, well then Broxah had already died. So what ended up happening right there was Unicorns zoned off the carries of Fnatic with 1, the Talon, and 2, the Maokai ulti.
And we've been talking so much about Exileh's inability to do a huge amount in these late game team fights. Think about how difficult it is for the Kalista when there's all these tanks sitting on top of her face. It's so difficult to get those Ren stacks off. She doesn't have that super late game build compared to Samux, who just obliterates so many members of Fnatic this late into the game.
The team fight team of Unicorns of Love with their Stampede composition get their first Elder Drake of the EU LCS summer split here in week 7 in cross-group play against arguably their nemesis in Fnatic, and now Unicorns have all the tools they need to try close this game out.
And I think we've seen 2 team fights in a row now where Unicorns simply outplayed Fnatic in the fight itself. Exileh playing this decoy, basically, just buying time for Samux to take down whatever tank is in front of him. If Fnatic can't adjust to that, They might actually lose the next fight as well, and that should be game then.
But now Caps, he's got the death cap, he's got his full
Wait,
build
we're base
completed.
racing now?
Oh, flash already used there by Soaz. He's
Okay, straight
running
for
away
Baron.
You're right.
from
They're
Vizicsacsi.
just grouping up for bot Fnatic. They're just going.
It wouldn't be Fnatic UOL if there wasn't some form of shenanigans. Fnatic inside the base, dealing with the
Oh my
supers.
God.
Unicorns, they're on Baron and they've already taken it
Yeah,
down.
they got the recalls from Baron. You can't do that against the Baron buff now. It's so
Here
quick to
comes
get back
the
in base.
There's a teleport
Unicorns!
coming out. Unicorns running down Fnatic. The box is used. Hylissang's already caught out too. Vizicsacsi's popped 2 walls. Here comes the Righteous Glory. No grand entrance, not going to be enough. That Glacial Prison may have bought just enough time. Caps throws down the ball defensively.
No flashes used there from the Unicorns. Only ulti used by Hylissang, so they didn't really sacrifice a whole lot. They just lost the bot lane inhib, but they got the Baron.
But what a great game from both teams. Fnatic recognizing that they do not want to fight the Unicorns of Love around that Baron. So they just run it down bot. They go for the inhib and they're able to get the disengage. But UOL, they look like, oh, it was terrifying. Just all of them sped up. Baron buff, Elder Dragon, they were just running down that bottom lane.
And look at this, no flash on Caps. Rekkles is still on cooldown for a little while longer. And Soaz is forced to pop his. It's 45 minutes in and the 2,000 gold difference doesn't mean a thing because everybody's reaching max items.
And the fact that the most consistent member on the Unicorns of Love this split, Samux, is sitting here full build on this Xayah means that it's not about the Talon damage anymore, it's about the AD carry. And we saw in the last few fights, if Samux has enough time, he will kill Fnatic's front line and therefore win the fights for Unicorns of Love as well. He's of course relying on the big wall in front of him, being it Vizicsacsi, being it Xerxe. They're all adding so much value here.
Second inhibitor downed. Unicorns of Love are now stamping absolute control on the map. Look at the vision Fnatic have set up. Luckily, spotting up the Unicorns members, giving Fnatic the information they need.
And Fnatic fans, remember that while the Unicorns of Love look like they're in control, Fnatic can still win a huge team fight. There is nothing left of the Unicorns of Love base. It would be so easy for them to run down mid and end it if they can just find the final fight, and this could very well be it.
Oh, Jesiz goes fishing. Does not find himself a trout. Fnatic defending their last inhibitor turret. 5 inhibitors have been killed this game. Unicorns have 1 tower left at their nexus, and they have no room for error in these final fights.
Caps finally hit full late game. Death cap completed. 800 AP right now on this Orianna here. 1 big shockwave can also change the game.
Look as
Fishing
well.
again.
2 inhibitors down for Fnatic. They have to deal with the supers too. UOL, they're just being patient, gradually hitting down onto this tower. I don't know if Fnatic really want to try and force something, but they're really running out of options.
Well, Unicorns just need to be patient. Let the super minions do the work for you. As Rekkles is already peeled away. He's in the mid lane. The
Here they
quickness
go.
comes down. Hylissang decides to engage under Soaz. Nature's Grasp splits up the rest of Fnatic. That's a great route. Rekkles is able to survive, but the tower will not. The tower's falling. Rekkles lifesteal does a lot against these super minions.
Right then, the bottom of the screen. Exileh got onto Rekkles instantly. Rekkles had to use everything to get away. So once again, we got that flank from the Talon.
All 3 inhibitors are down. Fnatic and Unicorns 5v5 inside the base. I stand corrected. The bottom inhibitor just respawns. It will be killed instantaneously. Double super minions. Now what Fnatic have to deal with, and 20 seconds to Baron. Unicorns, will you stick around or will you play this safe?
Unicorns of Love, they see the end in sight. They have the minions backing them up, but they have to land it onto the right targets. Rekkles still positioning on the back line. It's all about Exileh. His cooldowns are back up. He's ready to go.
Yeah, but there's always a scary position when it's Fnatic versus Unicorns, when you think you can just go for that next straight away, and then suddenly you might lose a fight. Still very close, but Fnatic, they're under so much pressure.
The ruptures and the feral screams. Chachi's throwing them out, fishing for targets. Glacial Prison. Samux! Why are you there? 5 versus 4. Fnatic looking for more. Vizicsacsi gets caught by the flame. Rekkles is able to dash away. Now Exile's coming over the wall. Look at the damage. He's got Shadow Assault and uses it. Stands united onto Caps. Buys so much time. Vizicsacsi's down. Fnatic fight back.
Remember, Fnatic, there's nothing left of the base for the Unicorns of Love. They just needed that one big team fight, and now they're looking to get the turnaround.
So they're pushing down the mid lane right now. There's still so many super minions coming in every single lane. Massive wave top lane, 1 wave coming in the bottom lane as well, but both Nexus turrets are live for Fnatic. It means they can buy a lot of time. Hylissang is behind them trying to get the minion wave.
But look at the bottom lane too, big stack in favor of
But Soaz is
Unicorns
back.
of Love.
Soaz is there to just make sure that the turrets will stay alive for as long as possible, while Fnatic try and go for the finish.
And I don't even think this is the end of the game yet. Yes, Fnatic, they have full members, but the TP is coming in. They're going for the end.
Oh, one Nexus turret is all that's left. Exileh throws out the rake. He's trying to stop as much as he can. Caps is low. There's no minions, remember. That tower is super ultra mega beefy. Caps running for his life.
the
There's so
damage.
much damage onto Rekkles. Now Rekkles is dead. And Fnatic thrown it away. The shockwave.
Here
Caps
comes
is
the
alive.
Max.
And Fnatic are running for their lives. There was no minions. The tower was too tanky.
They rushed for it, they couldn't take it down. Now Unicorns of Love will turn it around. Triple kill for Exileh. They will win the game, and you are not allowed to fight in the base between Unicorns and Fnatic.
You can never underestimate the power of a Unicorn. They're gonna take the game.
Are you not entertained? Unicorns break Fnatic's win streak.
Oh man.
Game one. It's only game one.
It's every single time when you think, okay, now they're gonna go in, they're gonna kill that Nexus, then something happened right there. Broxah landed a sick Sejuani
beautiful,
ulti
beautiful.
onto Samux, and then suddenly we're like, whoa, Fnatic winning? But no minions. Unicorns turned around.
The Love Hurts crew in Berlin have turned to full Spartans. What a crazy game. You always hope for it to be that entertaining, that back and forth, that crazy, and somehow Fnatic in UOL
Every
always
time.
deliver.
And Deficio, he promised you guys fights, and you got him. So many clutch fights going in so many directions. And it's just the way in which they evolved throughout the game, too. How at the beginning it was all about Exileh killing those primary targets, and then it evolved into him becoming like a decoy, and then Samux was the carry. And who could Soaz get the taunt on? Was his shield in the right place?
Yep.
Like, so many things changing every single fight.
I mean, just that adaptation, once we got so far into the late game, everyone had full items of switching away from the Talon who needs to assassinate people to the Talon who needs to buy time in the backline and then like kite out, uses ulti defensively. So Samux on the Xayah here can be the main damage dealer. Like, that was very creative, very smart from Unicorns of Love, and it really caught Fnatic here because they started losing some of those fights when we thought they were supposed to win. Like Rekkles won that Baron fight when he got too close. Big ones.
Expectations for this was that Fnatic were meant to 2-0. They were the team on an 8-game winning streak. They came into this with a 15-3 record. If I look past their previous records, 6-7, 7-6-5, 13-5. This is the best split they've had since summer 2015. And Unicorns said, screw that! They took them down.
Veduis.
Analyst asked,
Wow.
how did they do it?
Yo, they fought a lot. Like, I don't know what else to say. They fought so much. We asked for about 30 replays. We cut 27 of them because they were all team fights, but we're going to watch the last couple of fights just to break down the crucial moments of this game. The early game, the mid game, it became irrelevant because the game went on for so long, but if we can just take a look at those last few fights, and Henning, I'll have you start on this one. This is the Elder Dragon fight that started potentially the Unicorns of Love.
So the Elder Dragon mechanic becomes so interesting when you've got a Kalista on one side and a Cho'gath on the other. Two champions that are so good at securing this. Then we see all the CC in this tight corridor that is getting layered on top of each other by UOL, not actually doing that much. They got the Rakan, Cho'gath, and Maokai, not really doing enough when it comes to shutting down the carries of Fnatic. But then they're in the end able to pop Rekkles here. Vizicsacsi getting into melee range. So big on that Cho'gath. What do you think, Yamato?
I was just thinking about this team fight. I remember watching what Rekkles was buying, and he was just buying Bloodthirst as his last item against this double tank composition. He didn't buy his last Whisper. Finally, in this one, though, he sold his Bloodthirster, came in with a last Whisper. All of a sudden, Cho'gath HP is going down. Holy shit, we can kill him.
Yeah, and that fight I also got a comment that there was no QSS on Samux, and Hylissang actually talked about him buying a Mikhail's Crucible. Instead, he went for a Banshee's Veil in their Redemption. I don't think Samux was too happy with that one.
No, in this final moment, reminder everyone, if you do not have a creep, that tower is not actually unkillable, but is basically unkillable. So if you ever want a backdoor, bring a minion with you. And that is a lesson that Fnatic are definitely learning the hard way. I think when we look at this, though, excitement aside, do Fnatic have to go for the end here? Because Unicorns of Love have just been winning fights.
Like, they should just take the triple inhib, and we will have a scenario that I haven't seen ever in my life. I think triple inhib versus triple inhib opens. I have no idea where the game goes on from there.
And I mean, it's absolutely insane. You know, congratulations to Unicorns of Love at the end of the day. I think an amazing game played on both sides. We wanted to take a chance to look at the draft phase because we thought like that was one of the biggest and probably the most deciding factor in this game when you look across all of these team fights. Yamato, what was your impression?
I think first and foremost, on paper, I think Fnatic have a better draft. Their win conditions are more clear. They will have mid priority with Orianna. They can defeat Talon in the split push as well. So they have these macro style kind of win conditions they can play to. But in this kind of stylistic matchup where everything is just about fighting all the time, UOL's comp actually makes sense because they only have this one win condition, and that is to team fight with the composition. They can't split push because of Shen. They can't run it down mid because of Orianna. We gotta just fight.
Yeah, I think that Unicorns actually drafted a very good team comp for their style. Not only do they love to fight early on, or in the mid game rather, but they also, like a lot of teams that like to force the mid game fights, set up like properly slowly around objectives, around the tower, warding around the sides, get the side lanes going. That's not the Unicorn style. They just want to force the fights in the enemy jungle, and that's where a lot of these picks do really well, when they're able to set up there in the narrow corridors of the jungle with the Rakan W, with the Cho'gath, Rupture and Silence, and especially with the Maokai, who we saw doing so much with the saplings, and those ultis actually landing this game.
It was impressive to see. I feel like the
Are
first...
you flaming Joko?
No. The first consistently good use of Maokai ultimate. I know it's a really difficult skill. People are learning it. But the additional... I feel like when we first saw this draft phase, we as a desk were really concerned about the Talon, right? Because it's just later the game goes, the more it feels like Orianna is the impact. Was this Unicorns of Love playing around the Talon really well, or was another factor on the Unicorns of Love team composition kind of outweighing the potential, I don't want to say lack of damage, but just less comparable damage than an Orianna when it comes to that Talon?
I think that Unicorns Love played better around the Talon than I was expecting. Exileh actually played a really good early to mid game. I thought that, I'm not sure about the Talon because I haven't seen it too much recently, but I think that the late game strategy should be to go for the split push and contest the Shen in the side lane, but that's not what happened, Yamato.
I think like a big mistake, I think, was to not buy Last Whisper on Talon, because he can actually kill the Shen in the side lane if he just goes there and matches him at that point in the game. I think also a big mistake from Fnatic was like they should have priority on every wave, and the way they need to play team fights, they have this range advantage because of Orianna. They just need to play it slow. But all the time we saw these situations where they went too deep. They were the ones engaging, where they had no reason to force. They can take priority everywhere, take it slow, force the enemy to engage, because that is the only tool Unicorns of Love have to get priority. They have to engage. Play that kind of style. Force the enemy team to engage, kite, 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 and you'll win with the Kalista and Orianna. But they didn't do that.
Well, as we round out this game review, Yamato, as a coach, what do you tell your players after a game like that? I mean, it goes so long, it's so back and forth. There's some insane decision-making there as you move later into the later game. High pressure. What do you say to your guys after a game like that?
This is definitely like a game you just have to move on, right? You need to tell your players this is 0-0. What happened doesn't matter, you know? You move on, you look at draft, you make sure that you pick blue side, right? And you are the ones that are going to have the Cho'gath this time around, and you just continue on from there. There's no point lingering on in these long games. You just need to shake it off and move on.
So it's not really so much, it feels like necessarily a draft thing, maybe a little bit of an in-game execution thing, but just starting fresh appears to be the best call if you're the side of Fnatic. Now for Unicorns of Love, do you just do it again? Do you just, I mean, you're going to be red side, it's going to be a little bit different, but can you just go for the same style of composition, maybe take a risk with another pick like Talon?
You won't have Cho'gath, I hope, on red side. I think stylistically, this comp made a lot of sense in this matchup. I would disagree, and like if there was different teams, if I saw these comps in Korea or whatever else, I would say that Fnatic's comp had a massive edge. But in this matchup of these two teams, I think these team fight compositions are very in favor and in fashion.
Yeah, I totally agree. If there's something we know for sure in Game 2, it's that we're going to be seeing a lot of fights in the mid game, because that's what both of these teams want to do.
I definitely hope so. Well, after an insane start, we are ready for more action here in this series. Game 2 is coming up right after this.
It's Talon! Will the Unicorns of Love give up first blood? Yes, they will! A second for Rekkles! Death Sentence on the back end won't find a target. Caps is now running for his life. Exile's looking to trade with the rake, the flash, the dash, the smash! Exile gets it!
Be fast. They're running into Orianna. I'm coming as well. Orianna there. No flash. Nice.
It's a 3 for 3 as both teams have lost 2. The grand entrance comes back in. The taunt, the dash, but look at the damage from Caps. He's helped by Broxah. Fnatic are destroying Unicorns. And we've already seen a Baron steal today. Not going to happen against UOL. Rekkles hopping, skipping, and jumping in the front line. He gets charmed up by the quickest and knocked down. Exile finds his man.
Oh my god.
Oh, Rekkles did was just buying time, and Unicorns are winning.
Vizicsacsi though gets his mech. Keep an eye on Rekkles' HP. He's killed. He's down. Unicorns may have done it. Cap's running for his life. There's so much damage onto Rekkles. Now Rekkles is dead. And Fnatic thrown it away. The shockwave. Captures the Max. And Fnatic are running for their life. Are you not entertained? Unicorns break Fnatic's win streak.